Welcome back to Speak for Yourself from the Crib. Presented by Hyundai, Jason Whitlock, Marcellus, Wiley on a wonderful Monday afternoon. All right, let's move out to B.J. Armstrong's crib here in L.A. B.J., former Chicago Bull, like the rest of us, watching ESPN's Last Dance documentary about the final Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman-led season of the championship Bulls in 1997-98. Last night, they covered some interesting ground. The documentary, a bit more appreciative of Jerry Krause, spent some time focusing in on Dennis Rodman and his role with the Chicago Bulls, and, of course, kept his focus on Michael Jordan and how he manipulated and ran the team. Who did you gain the most respect for last night, Marcellus? Michael Jordan, Jerry Krause, or Dennis Rodman?
By default, I'm going to go with Jerry Krause. If you look at Krause and what he was depicted in episodes 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4, you saw the likability come in. You saw some scenes where he was a part of the group beyond the roster construction, which you have to give him credit for, regardless if you like him or not. Seeing him dance with Scottie Pippen, okay. All right, so it wasn't always feuding times. There's a thin line between love and hate. And basically, you cross the line when you don't do for me and take care of me. I understand where you're coming from, Pippen, but y'all used to be boys, it looked like, for a second there. So if you look at Michael Jordan, you can't have more respect for Michael Jordan because you already knew what it took for him to be great. Insane mentality, great ability, and a killer instinct. And then he got put into a great situation with talking about Coach Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen and his emergence. You can't really get anything profound from Dennis Rodman. You knew that Dennis Rodman, no matter how wild he was, wasn't just rolling out of the bed or from the club and going straight on the court. He put in his work. He studied the game. You knew he was a great teammate. So I just actually saw the gain in respect go towards Jerry Krause and how he looked different between the two episodes.
You know, I think those were all great points, but I think who really benefited from this most is the game of basketball itself. And as you mentioned earlier, Jerry Krause was the only one in the organization who ever said no to Michael Jordan. And I think it was in episodes 1 and 2 where, you know, Michael Jordan's dad said, if you want to get the best out of my son, just tell him he can't do something. So make no doubt about that with Jerry and what Jerry was able to accomplish. Michael Jordan benefited, and I thought he showed great leadership when they could have sent anyone to Dennis Rodman's home to get Dennis Rodman. They could have sent an assistant general manager, a coach, a former teammate. Michael Jordan himself went to Dennis Rodman's home to get Dennis Rodman because the game needed Dennis Rodman, and we all, or I say they all needed him at that particular time. And I want to make this I want to point this out. When you look at the logo, under the logo, it says NBA Entertainment. Dennis read that little fine print, and he was part of the show. Dennis was an incredible basketball player. He was a very smart basketball player, but make no doubt about it, he was part of the entertainment package that allowed the game to get off of the sports page. You were talking about Dennis in lifestyle. You were talking about him in entertainment, and he moved the game forward with the personalities. The hair and all those things were just a distraction, but make no doubt about it that all three of those men that you just mentioned here, Michael, Jerry, and Dennis, the game benefited because of it, because we got the best out of everyone, which we saw a franchise win 6 championships in 8 years.
It's got to be Jerry Krause. Big win for him last night. I couldn't stand him in the first 2 episodes. Clearly showed his genius in episodes 3 and 4. The guy made some great decisions. Obviously with Tex Winter, siding with Tex Winter over Doug Collins, the drafting of Dennis Rodman and putting that team together. You got to give Jerry Krause a lot of credit. All right, the other big deal last night was they went into a little bit more detail on the feud between Isaiah Thomas's bad boy Detroit Pistons and Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan took some shots at Isaiah Thomas, called him an a-hole last night on television, all over this lack of a handshake in 1991 when the Pistons left the court early. Whose side you on, Marcellus? Isaiah or Michael Jordan?
Crazy enough, they both were right. But if you're going to make me sit in this courtroom and slam down my gavel and give you a verdict, I'm siding with Isaiah Thomas because he actually got caught up in a cultural shift from the way it used to be and the way it should be. Let me explain. This all started when the Boston Celtics finally lost to the Detroit Pistons and they walked off the court. We actually got to see the video of that. And Isaiah was like, oh, so when you beat the best, they don't hand you the baton. They just throw it on the ground. You got to pick it up. No sportsmanship. Okay. So when Jordan finally beat Isaiah, they had learned conditioned behavior of, we going to do the same thing that was done to us. This is how we were raised in the game. No disrespect to them, but respect to the way the game is played. But then Jordan, in his explanation, tried to come back and say, no, no, no. When we lost to them, lost is the key word. When we lost to them, we went out there and was shaking their hands. Yeah, you should shake my hand, you loser. And he tried to insert that as the actual example of why Isaiah was wrong. Hey, case dismissed. Isaiah, take your money and go, man.
Well, you know what? I'm going to try to act my age here and really be 52. But I'm going to go back in time, if you will, and really try to expand what was going on. We understood exactly what the Pistons were doing. We understood the mental warfare of why the Pistons were doing what they were doing. And you're exactly right. No one was going to hand you anything. You had to go there and take it. But in saying that, the one thing that I think needs to be expressed is that we had to understand that there was a responsibility that was bigger than all of us. And we had to show some type of, example to the kids who were watching the game. The camera didn't pick that up.
Oh,
the camera,
God.
when they were walking off the court, it was just bad. It was just bad no matter how you slice it, how you can look at it and what you can say. And I think that was the one thing that we were very aware of as players in the game. We knew what they were trying to do. We knew what they were trying to say. But I'm going to tell you what, when they walked off the court, the camera picked up and saw something entirely differently because it was a game within the game. And no one else knew what was going on other than the players who were actually playing. And I think that's what we're still talking about some 30 years later.
Look, that era of the NBA was as physical and as intense. The rivalries were personal. I'm clearly on Isaiah's side on this. Isaiah's a very good friend of mine. Isaiah is one of the most misunderstood athletes that I've ever seen in professional sports. Obviously love and respect what Michael Jordan accomplished in his NBA career, but I wish he would let this go. The bad boy Pistons figured out a way to beat up Michael Jordan and the Bulls and steal 2 titles. Rather than look at them like they're beneath us, they're not the sportsmen that we were. No, Isaiah Thomas was a little dude, 6'1", played with a chip on his shoulder, and built a team to play with a chip on his shoulder. Wasn't as talented as the Chicago Bulls. Figured out a way to beat him up and win 2 titles. Hats off. It made Michael Jordan even greater. It makes his story even greater. Michael needs to show Isaiah some respect. Kept him off the dream team. It's the only thing I can really criticize Michael about is the way he's mistreated Isaiah Thomas for the last 30 years. All right, we got to keep it moving. LeVar Arrington's going to join us. We're going to have the most fearless discussion in sports. The Patriots drafted a kicker, Justin Rohrwasser, who's taken a lot of heat for a tattoo that some people think is controversial. He's having it removed. We'll tell you what we think about it. Speak for yourself.